My 6-year-old daughter went missing in a shopping mall. It was a voice I hadn't heard in 10 years. Sharp, innocent, fragile, yet cutting through the noise of the foreign crowd like a blade pressed to my throat. "Dad!" I froze mid-step. My luggage handle slipped from my hand, clattering against the polished floor of the airport concourse. I turned slowly, afraid my mind was playing another trick, afraid this was just another hallucination in the long line of sleepless nights where memory and madness blur. But there she was, older, taller, her face carrying faint traces of the little girl who vanished inside a shopping mall a decade ago. 10 years of searching, 10 years of silence, and yet in that instant I recognized her bone structure, the slope of her eyes, the scar beneath her lip from a fall on the playground swing. My daughter. She was alive. My chest constricted, breath shallow, legs trembling. I wanted to run, to crush her in my arms, to anchor her back into my life. But then I saw the figure standing next to her, and my body turned cold. The world tilted. Noise of announcements and luggage wheels vanished into a suffocating silence. Because the man standing beside her was someone I once trusted, someone who should never have been there. My legs began to shake, not with joy, never joy, but with the slow, merciless rise of truth. Something had been stolen from me, not just once, but for 10 long years. 10 years ago, my daughter had disappeared inside a mall. The cameras caught nothing useful, just her small figure turning a corner and vanishing into the blur of strangers. Security had failed. Police offered their scripts of false reassurances. My wife had cried until her voice was nothing but ash. And me? I became a hollow machine. I searched until my soul thinned into smoke, but we found nothing. Then, slowly, too slowly, I began to notice how my wife adjusted. Too quickly, too conveniently. Her grief, though loud at first, softened into whispers, then into silence. She stopped mentioning our daughter's name. She stopped meeting my eyes. I told myself it was her way of coping. People grieve differently, don't they? That's what the therapist said. But deep inside, a seed of unease rooted itself. Now, here in this airport, 10 years later, the seed finally bloomed. Because the man standing beside my grown daughter, the man whose hand rested, possessive and confident on her shoulder, was not a stranger. It was Daniel, my oldest friend, my business partner, my brother in everything but blood. And the way she leaned toward him, the way his eyes darted at me with a flicker of defiance rather than guilt, told me what I needed to know. My daughter hadn't just been lost, she had been taken. Taken by them, by him, by her. And suddenly, all those moments from the past, my wife's quick acceptance, her refusal to continue searching, the way she avoided malls and questions, snapped into perfect, merciless clarity. This wasn't loss, this was betrayal. I didn't rush to her, didn't scream or collapse. No, I did what I had trained myself to do across years of emptiness. I observed, I calculated. She was taller, yes, but her eyes still had my shape. She wore clothes too expensive for a student, too curated for chance. Her posture wasn't timid, it was rehearsed. She had been raised elsewhere, molded deliberately. Daniel kept his hand on her shoulder as though she was his possession. His lips curled in the faintest smile when he saw me watching. Not guilt, triumph. He wanted me to know. That night in my hotel room, I barely moved. I didn't turn on the lights. I sat in the dark with my mind racing through a decade of memories like old film reels, searching for the cut, the splice, where truth had been edited out. I replayed my wife's face, the hollow eyes, the sudden excuses when I pressed her about continuing the investigation, how she avoided the detectives after the second year, how she always told me, maybe she's gone, maybe we need to let go. Let go? No mother lets go. Unless unless she already knew. The pieces arranged themselves like a puzzle I should have solved years ago. I began my investigation quietly. Phone calls to old contacts, pulling strings in law enforcement, records, border checks, tracing Daniel's international dealings. I requested copies of DNA databases through back channels under aliases. Every discovery confirmed the storm. My daughter had been issued false documents at age 6, new passports, medical records, school enrollments abroad. Daniel's name appeared in the shadows of these files, never directly, but always present. And my wife, her signature existed in too many places. They had done this together. While I searched, they built a new life. For 10 years, I was the grieving fool, the broken husband, the friend who was pitied, while they lived, while they raised my daughter as theirs. And now, she was old enough to call me Dad, with a voice trembling between recognition and conditioning. But I would not storm. I would not scream. I would not bleed for them anymore. I would end this on my terms. It took 3 weeks to gather what I needed. 3 weeks of silence, of cold calculation. I secured DNA tests, samples taken carefully. My daughter's coffee cup left unattended in a cafe. Daniel's glass from a business dinner. The results returned with a finality that didn't surprise me. She was mine. Not his, not theirs. Mine. Which meant Daniel had stolen more than a child. He had stolen my bloodline, my fatherhood, my very identity. The next evening I arranged the meeting. A restaurant, discreet, dimly lit. A place where businessmen pretend civility while cutting each other's throats over contracts. I arrived early, placed the manila envelope on the table. When Daniel entered, my daughter was with him. She smiled faintly when she saw me, unsure, her memory straining against years of conditioning. Daniel's eyes flicked to the envelope. He knew. "Sit," I said. My voice was calm, controlled. He sat. My daughter followed hesitantly. I pushed the envelope across the table. He didn't open it immediately. He just stared at me, his jaw tightening, his hand still protective on her arm. When he finally slid the papers out, the DNA reports, the school documents, the forged signatures, his face cracked. For the first time in years, I saw guilt slice across his expression. "Why now?" I asked quietly. No anger, no raised tone, just a scalpel's edge. He swallowed, lips trembling, but no words came. My daughter looked between us, confusion dawning like a slow eclipse. 10 years, I whispered. 10 years of searching for her while you built your life on lies. Daniel's face drained. His hand slipped from her shoulder. He opened his mouth, but I leaned forward, voice cutting him off. "Don't speak, because I already knew everything. Revenge isn't fire. It isn't fury. It's ice." And that night, I froze him to the marrow. I didn't shout, I didn't strike, I simply laid everything bare with the precision of a surgeon exposing a tumor. The forged documents, the DNA proof, the hidden bank accounts, the phone records connecting him and my wife during the days following the disappearance. Each paper, each detail was another nail into the coffin of his false life. My daughter's hands trembled as she read the names, the signatures, the evidence that shattered the world she thought was real. "Mom," she whispered, her voice breaking for the first time. And I saw it, the fracture in Daniel's control, the loss of his decade-long lie unraveling in front of her. He tried to reach for her hand, but she pulled back. I didn't need to comfort her. I didn't need to explain further. The truth did the work for me. Daniel's lips trembled. His eyes pleaded, not with me, but with her. Desperate, cornered. I leaned back, calm, detached. "You didn't just betray me," I said coldly. "You betrayed her. You built her life on sand, and now it all collapses." Silence spread, heavy, suffocating. I stood, gathering nothing, leaving the envelope between them like a gravestone on the table. Then I looked at him one last time. "You raised her for 10 years, but she was never yours. And now she never will be." His face broke then, crumbled into something pathetic, and for the first time in a decade, I felt the ground steady beneath my feet. I didn't take her home that night. I didn't claim her like some prize won in a war. She wasn't a trophy. She was a person, a young woman with a shattered reality to rebuild. She needed truth, not chains. So I left her with the knowledge of who I was, of who they were, and the choice to find me when she was ready. As I walked out of the restaurant into the midnight air, I felt something strange. Not joy, not peace, but silence. The kind of silence that comes after a storm tears everything apart, leaving only bare ground where lies once stood. Daniel would suffer in the ruins of the life he built. My wife, when confronted with the same truth, would suffer too. Their punishment was not fire or blood. It was exposure. The truth was the blade, and it cut deeper than anything I could have done with rage. I didn't look back, not at him, not at her. I simply walked away. Because after 10 years of searching, I finally understood. She wasn't the one who had gone missing. I was. And now, I was found. Some betrayals don't end with forgiveness. They end with silence, and silence is colder than death.